Hey all, welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile, and today I'm going to be showing you guys a rank 4 ABC build. Now this is actually one that my close friend uses whenever we duel. I really enjoy dueling up against this. It's a very consistent deck. It's not super repetitive, a little bit repetitive, but not super repetitive, and it's not like boring to fight against. It's actually quite exciting. So I really wanted to showcase this. I know it's a little bit later. ABC kind of had their shine about a month or two ago, but it's still very, very viable for the current format, and I think that I wanted just to showcase. I know it's a very similar deck build to a lot, but that's because there's really only one way to run a rank 4 build of ABC, but there's a few small changes, and I wanted to show you guys that. So basically, I'm going to start off by just explain a little bit about the core function of the cards that make up the real core of this deck. We got A Assault Core, very many puns. So A Assault Core is the higher attack variant of the three cards that really build up the whole major part of this deck. And this one is actually how you get cards out of your graveyard back to your hand, which is fairly useful. Not as useful as some of the other effects in this deck, because you can still make ABC Dragon Buster using cards in your graveyard. But still a pretty awesome card. It's great to get over some monsters when you only have it. And then of course we have B Buster Drake. Now this is one where you can add a Union monster from your deck to your hand. So this is like the Reinforcement of the Army, the Searcher for your Union cards. It's actually very useful. And this one comprises of basic attack. It's kind of a mix in between the 2A and the C. It's got 1500 attack and 800 defense. It's really not going to be doing much besides just searching. Alright, so next we got Sea Crush Wyvern. Actually a pretty awesome card. It's got 2000 defense, so there's always that to fall back on. But when this card is destroyed, and sent to the graveyard, it's allowed to special summon a Union monster from your hand. So that's another awesome effect that it has. So those are the three main cards of the deck. That's what forms the ABC Dragon Buster, obviously, and they're a big engine. But another big engine for the deck is the gadget cards. So of course we got Silver Gadget here. Basically when this card is normal or special summoned, you can special summon a level 4 machine type monster from your hand. So that's a great way of bringing out the ABC cards. But it's also a great way of bringing out Gold Gadget for that kind of combo play. So it's very versatile that way. Of course, you can only use it once per turn, but when this card is destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can actually special summon another gadget card from your deck. So you can instantly bring out the Gold Gadget. So that's pretty awesome. And of course, Gold Gadget is just a mirror of that. It's just basically runs the same exact style of effect, just the variant card. It's got 1700 attack, while the other one only has 1500 attack, but give or take, they're both really useful in their own merit. And of course, for the rank 4 build, we got Photon Thrasher. So Photon Thrasher is obviously the card that lets you special summon it, and while you have no monsters, which is fairly great, because then you can go right into a rank 4 play with any one of the other cards in your deck, because they're all rank 4, basically. Of course, we have the Maxis over in the back there, but the rank 4 is probably what you're going to be seeing most frequently, and then you're trying and get an ABC Dragon Buster out. That's obviously the card that lets you really blow up your opponent's field and take control. And then finally, obviously 2 Maxis to run. This format is just all about draw power. I think that with a lot of draw power cards being hit, you really just got to run everything you can. So 2 Maxis is what this deck runs max capacity for that. So that's our monster lineup. Let's move on to spell and trap cards. We got Instant Fusion, starting off our spell lineup. And this is just for Elder the Entity Norden over there in our extra deck. Now, I think he is a really good card just to help assist in the rank 4 plays. I see a lot of people run 2 or maybe even 3 instant fusions. I just find it becomes a dead card a little too quickly. We only run 1. My other friend said that he didn't even like to run this at all. He just he finds it a dead card too often rather than not, and he'd rather have the extra deck space. But I think it's quite useful at 1, so I think it's a good one to keep in there. Then we got Reinforcement of the Army, another great card just for searching out the one target it has, which is Photon Thrasher up here. Now, and of course, there's another way to get more rank 4 plays, and this is very useful in the beginning of the game, just to get that in your starting hand, so you can make a rank 4 play right away. Now, of course, we got Pot of Desires up here. Now, this is a pretty awesome card. It's super expensive. Now, obviously, my buddy only has one of these, and he runs a couple other cards, like Anti-Spell Fragments, in the actual deck itself, and then he'll just sub them out during the second or third round if we make it that far. This is an expensive card, and I know I focused this on my last DDD deck profile. It definitely ups the deck. It brings it to another tier. It's needed, it's helpful, and I think you should run it if you can. But of course, I understand it being at like $77 Canadian. It's a little bit ridiculous to run. So I totally understand, But this is obviously the best deck you can run, and obviously this is an online dueling program, so you want to just use every card you can. Draw power is basically everything in this whole format, like I said. So we also round things off by making our deck a 39 card deck by having Upstart Goblin in it. I run this almost in all my current decks right now, just because you need to stay fast-paced along with other decks, or you're going to be left in the dust. Now, of course, we run 3 Terraformers. This is pretty standard, and this is only to get us to the Union Hanger card. Now, this is awesome for special summoning Union monsters from your deck, which is probably the best play for it. And you can also search out as soon as you play this card, like once it activates, you're allowed to search out a Union card. So that's pretty awesome. I think this is probably the best searcher in the deck. You're going to be using this most frequently, and you're definitely going to run it at 3. And I run 3 Terraforming because it's very essential to have this card in the field. You won't be able to make the same combo plays without it, and you won't be able to stay as consistent without it. So Book of Eclipse is another new card that I haven't really focused much on in the past, but ever since it was used up against me, I realized its potential. Yeah, sure, you get your opponent gets to draw a card or 2, but being able to shut down an entire set of plays, that's definitely worth it. Of course, I used to run Dark Bribe, which allows your opponent to draw a card, and I negate their spell or trap card. So this is a no-brainer for me to run. It's a really great way to shut down current cards being used, and it doesn't target, so that's a pretty big deal. And finishing off our spell lineup, we have 3 Twin Twisters. I think this is a very valuable card. You can still make Dragon Buster from your graveyard using the materials, so it doesn't really matter if you discard one of the ABC lineup. And you really need to get rid of some back row with this deck. It's very useful to have. Also stopping pendulums. This deck obviously is not a pendulum deck. You want to stop other pendulum decks. Twin Twister is a great card to run, and it's at 3. I think it's an all-around good choice, so definitely run 3 if you can. I've seen some people run 2, but I think 3 is just the most consistent. You have a lot of space in this deck to kind of work with, and I think Twin Twister fits that hole pretty great. And the last part of the main deck, moving on to our trap cards, we got Bottomless Trap Hole. Now, this is a card, I'm focusing his deck profile. This is a card that I don't usually run. I usually go for a Dimensional Barrier, but of course that is in his side deck. He has 3 copies of that. So I do think this is a pretty good. This is mostly just to get rid of that one trump card that your opponent plays. Just banish it, get rid of it. And it's fairly consistent, I think, and that's definitely why it's still limited to 1. But it's entirely up to you guys. The whole trap card lineup in this deck, it's very flexible. You swap it out with your side deck every duel for sure. And just staying with consistency, Vanity's Emptiness is a very standard card in today's format. I think you should be running one in almost every deck, and of course it shows up here as well. Now, he's a great fan of the Solemns, so he has 2 Solemn Strikes and a Solemn Warning. I asked him if he would run 3 Solemn Strikes just because that's a little bit more consistent in today's, but he's like, no, I gotta say Solemn Warning is a better way to shut down some activation cards that try to special summon using spell and trap cards. And I say, fair game, man. That is totally cool. He stopped me a few times with Solemn Warning. I know it's a 2000 hit, but it's actually very good regardless of that hit. Moving on, we have our extra deck here, and of course we run 3 ABC Dragon Busters. Now this is obviously the boss monster of this deck. It's not everything the deck focuses on, but it's definitely what you would call a boss monster. And it is definitely dominating the meta right now. It's part of those decks that are kind of seeing their way into the format that we're not sure if it's going to totally stay there. We're seeing a lot of totally awesome builds, but I think ABC Dragon Buster is a card to definitely fear. And you can see it its entire merit when it brings back cards during your opponent's turn. That's a great defensive wall as well. Like I said before, Instant Fusion's target, Elder Entity Norden, just there for the rank 4 plays. And obviously run number 39 Utopia, very standard, and that's just to mostly go into the Utopia the Lightning. That's a pretty standard upgrade as well. It's very powerful right now, and I see it in a lot of rank 4 builds. It's very standard, and it's quite powerful. Of course, we run some gadgets and a lot of machines. Gear Gigant X is obviously featured in this deck as well. It's just a very powerful machine type Xyz card. It's got some pretty good attack, and its ability to add a level 4 or lower monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand is very useful in this build. And mostly you're just going to be searching for the gadgets, because obviously you don't really care if the ABC core set is in the graveyard or not. He also runs a Castle, the Sky Blaster, so I think it's pretty good. You can make your own call. Most of these cards are fairly debatable, whatever rank 4s you want to play. These are just the lineup that I see is most effective. He's beat me with it a couple times, and it looks like it's fairly standard across everybody else's deck profile that you see a lot of the similar rank 4 cards appearing here. And of course we had 3 Diamond Dire Wolves, very standard card, quite powerful. You see it popping up a lot. It's just a pretty good card altogether. And I don't want to butcher this one's name, so we got, and then we got Dagasto Emerald, another just rank 4, pretty general, just all very situational of course. And an Abyss Dweller, also pretty standard. And then of course Gaga Cowboy. I've seen that a lot. That's more of your defensive Burnham style. If you really need to go into it, I see it. But of course, I find most times he's either at Dire Wolf or he's in Utopia. These rest are just like situational cards. Alright, moving on to our side deck. Now, we got this Kaiju and the Ghost Ogre combination engine. Fairly useful. I don't ever see him main it. It's always just in there just in case. But most of the times, he stays pretty vanilla, pretty pure with his build there. And I think it's fairly useful that way as well. Of course, the Ghost Ogre being for negation of cards, and this one just for getting over monsters by Tribute Summon. It's fairly good. I would main it if you want. There's a lot of space inside the deck. If you wanted to try to move some trap cards out, maybe some extra Twin Twisters don't need to be in there. Maybe you don't like your Terraformings quite at 3. I know that kind of becomes a dead card after a while. That engine is pretty good to put in there. And then we got one more Instant Fusion. He does run 2, and I'm not sure that this is really needed. I would have subbed this out personally for another Book of Eclipse, just in case. But he tells me sometimes having a second Instant Fusion is quite helpful. So if he really is looking for a way to get into Elder Entity Norden in the duel, he'll usually side this in just to really try to get a rank 4 off as quickly as possible. So I can see that. And of course the system down for the mirror matches, pretty self-explanatory. Banish all machine type monsters your opponent controls and in their graveyard. That's a pretty great way of blowing up the field. It doesn't hit your cards, if you guys didn't know that. I didn't know that for a while. I never really ran the system down. But it doesn't like hit your own machine, so it's pretty awesome. And then fairly standard 3-dimensional barriers. It's a great card. He leaves them in the side deck until the second game, mostly just to try and figure out what his opponent is running, as it's usually a mystery until halfway through the game. So then he just runs all 3 and he kind of knows what to target and everything. But yeah, like I said, his trap card line usually swaps out fairly consistently throughout the entire match. Master restricts, obviously because you don't want your extra deck locked down. Monarchs are still running around. I know they're not as consistent as before. I personally still play them, so I know they're out there a little bit. Just a little bit. But yeah, Master restrict, just a fairly standard card to run in there, just in case. That's the biggest deck that kind of hurts this one. So you want to just run 3. I personally recommend it, and I don't really see much harm in running it. And finally, we got 3 anti-spell fragrances. Now, of course, this can hinder you a lot, so it's very situational and you want to play it smart. But if you can use this effectively, it can really put you in a really great position. Give you that extra edge. And there's 3 being run. I think it was Sam from Team Samurai X1. He ran these in his main deck. I can see why. But usually this kind of sits in his side deck until he kind of really thinks he needs it. So I don't know about you guys. Another one for your call, but yeah, side deck for us. But yeah, guys, I thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any comments, feedback, I know we're both open to that. My friend and I are very willing to upgrade. Of course, I don't know everything about this game. I am not as OG and as meta as I know a lot of you are watching this, but this is just my take on it. I really just enjoy this game. I'm out there for fun. I'm not really out there to be the very best, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game of being fun, so I hope you guys enjoyed my deck profile. I have a blast fighting this, which is why I wanted to showcase it. I hope you enjoyed. I hope to catch you in the next one, and as always, peace.